Hey, what's up guys? Tetrek here, giving a little demo of the Division 2, and I've been messing around a little bit more with X input. I'm really enjoying it, especially on a game like this, where it's kind of a co-op, some PvP if you want to get into it, but the X input gives you the aim assist, which makes it really nice, and if you already are used to gyro movement, I know Critical Input did a video of it. I've been using that Steam controller for a little over 2 years now, maybe a little longer, 2.5 or so. And it's becoming more and more natural. I think as you use a Steam controller, just kind of just use your gyro as a steering wheel almost. So like turning left and right. Um, just just becomes more natural. Um, and the right pad becomes more of like you could either use it for something else, like he did in his one of his current videos, or just to help you kind of get in the general direction to get that gyro on point, right? So that way you can knock these guys dead, right? So I am using a mouse like joystick. It's basically trying to emulate the mouse with the analog stick, and um, getting the settings down was, man, it was frustrating. I didn't quite understand it, and I finally forced myself because I was using mouse and keyboard controls on most of my games. But there were some games where they don't allow you to use X input and mouse and keyboard at the same time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and figure this stuff out. And now I feel like, hey, maybe I can show you guys some things and you guys a few pointers on how to use this setup. So, um, first off, one of the things you're going to want to do is go into the game setting, whatever game you want to set up X input on, and basically crank all the controller sensitivities up for on controller, not the mouse and keyboard end, on the controller end, right? So, um, why you want to do that? Because you want this to move as fast as possible, because that's how a mouse, right? A mouse does. You're emulating the mouse. So, if you go into your settings here, whatever game, like I said, whatever game it is, controls. So you have your mouse sensitivity. That's not what we're adjusting. We're adjusting gamepad look sensitivity or whatever that is. Sometimes they use a scale of 1 to 10. This one does 1 to 100, I guess. So I cranked this up to 85. It feels pretty good at 85 for me. Gamepad aim sensitivity always is lower on a gamepad. They do that on purpose, um, because when you're aiming down sights on a controller, it's easier to hit your targets if it slows down. Well, obviously, trying to emulate a mouse and keyboard or a mouse movement, you don't want that to slow down. I mean, the only time you want it to slow down is when you're actually shooting, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but I always increase it more so than the gamepad look, right? And then the scope sensitivity in this game, which some games don't have, I cranked it all the way up to 10. So you want to do that, increase the gamepad sensitivity, all right? Then you can go into your Steam and start setting up the controls to tweaking them to where they feel better, um, emulating that mouse movement. And you could see that it's pretty quick on this, getting from one to another. This is just mouse joystick, so I've actually been enjoying it. The hardest part, I guess, would be to learn to control. character more with with gyro. All right. A few things to note is gyro, for some reason, on mouse look, moves slower going up and down, left and right. I think it's just maybe just this game. I don't know. So kind of test it out if you want on other games and see whatever game you're using. It may not be that way. So inside the Steam settings, I have a default, which is movement basically, and then I have aim down sights, right? So I can tweak sensitivity levels each way, and I definitely recommend, if you're going to do X input, to do this. You may not need to do it with regular mouse movement, mouse and keyboard, but in this, I don't know, you're going to need the extra tweaking, so you might as well make it. So the gyro camera scale basically scales off the pad if you're using mouse joystick on pad, which I am. So it's you can make it less or greater than the pad. So messing with it, it seemed to increase the speed a bit. If I increase this, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into that wrong, but I increase this a bit, it helps. The X and Y output are basically how fast the movements will be on X and Y. You'll get a lot more. It'll get a lot more jittery. Like, if you increase this too high for movement, this is fine, right? Just for movement. And then when I want to shoot, I right trigger soft pull puts the dampening on, right? So that way that I can get a little bit more precise. And then on top of that, when I full pull and I am shooting, I'm going to go ahead and increase my precision so it's a little bit more, and then put a little more dampening so that way I can, have more control. Now that's hip fire, right? Most of the time I'm going to be aiming down sights. You may even want to increase this curve responsiveness here on hip fire just a little bit, so that way it can move around a little bit faster while you're firing, because you did put some dampening on there. ADS, basically, you can tweak this a little more differently, because, like I said, on gamepad, they decrease the speed, so you're gonna want to increase it. And so that's what I did here. I just increased the X and Y values. Y, I believe, is going to be your up and down movement, so I wanted a little bit more it to move quickly up and down. And the X seemed fine, which is a horizontal. And then more precision, because I'm trying to be really precise, right? And then I put when I automatically pull that left trigger, you're going to get that mouse dampening instantly, right? So that helps out a lot, because it basically takes away that jitteriness sometimes you get. Dampening does a really good job. I wish there was a way that they would let you turn that on all the time, because it seems to help out a lot. Curve responsiveness, I want to be able to pick up a little speed pretty quickly, and minimum movement, I usually tweak that 1 or 2. So you don't want to increase this too much on when you're firing, right? Because you do need to hit those headshots, and if it's too much, it's going to feel a little bit like you're kind of jumping, I guess you could say, across the screen. So just a couple will help you out a little bit here on X input. As for the pad, when I pull on that left trigger, I don't want the pad movement, because I want my gyro to do all the work. And as you become more efficient with a gyro, you'll see why, because you're just going to be aiming and shooting with this thing, and with the gyro. So you want to start using the gyro for aiming. On default here, I do have it to move some, right? Rotation basically is how you slide your thumb across the pad. I have it angled a little more because that's how I hold my controller. It feels my thumb goes that bottom left to top right. Um, and then the sensitivity, this basically means that it's not going to pull up or down as quickly. It's going to be more horizontal movement, and that's what I want it to be, because basically that right pad is just to get me in the direction I want to look, right? The friction is going to be on low, so I can use that trackball. It works. You're going to need to use trackball, I think, on X input. On mouse, you really don't even need trackball friction. I do use it, but I don't, your, most of your movement's going to be in your controller, so you're not going to be using the trackball much on mouse. But in X input, you definitely want it on. Um, the friction scale is how fast or slow, how quickly it's going to stop or not stop when you spin it on the vertical scale. So if I spin it, right now it's increased, so it'll keep spinning um, longer, that trackball. All right. Um, Now I did increase the values of these outputs, so that way it'll move my thumb. When my thumb moves, it'll move more quickly. And like I said, this doesn't need to be precise because you're just using it to get to the direction you want it to be in, right? No dampening. Curve response is going to be really high because you want it to ramp up to speed really quickly. Now, there is something about X input. When I go from left of my pad all the way to the right really quick, you see it doesn't turn very fast, right? But the slower you go, the wider swing, right? So, and then if you include gyro in that, you know, you're going to be swinging a lot further, right? Then also too, your gyro, see how quickly it ramps up, and then if you kind of release, basically if I'm turning and I spin, it's already ramped up to speed, so I can use the trackball right away. So when I get it ramped up to speed, it's kind of like then I launch the ball, right? You're launching the trackball to get that speed, right? So that's my basic setup here. What I'm using for movement. My control buttons, like the X's on my bumper, and dude, they're all crazy. It's because that's how I like to use it, right? Um, I don't want to use the buttons. I take my thumbs off the pads, so I pretty much put my reload on holding right trigger, and then soft pulling. I mean, holding right bumper or left bumper, and then I'm getting shot here, and then tapping soft pull on my right trigger, so it switches weapons, right? So that's pretty much how I do most of my shooters now. I've gotten used to it. I know most people don't play that way. So button, where you put your stuff is all personal preference, right? Um, it's all up to you. But movement, you're going to get used to it. I definitely recommend this as a way to at least give it a try, see what you think. But you can see, man, it almost feels like I'm using mouse, and I get the benefit of aim assist, right? So um, it just can't beat it. It feels really good. A little bit of gameplay here, so you can kind of see how it interacts and with shooting. Let's see if we can find. Do need to go right here. We can get some gunplay. You guys can kind of see um, how this setup works, right? Love this game. It's so just arcade-ish. I know some people like the realistic, like pop them in the head and they're dead, but man, I'm old school. I still remember that arcade where you would you had that gun in your hand. I can't remember what that game was, and you had a pedal and you push the pedal to pop out of cover, right? And that's how it feels, popping out of cover, firing. And I mean, it was a rail game, so you were on a rail, and you were just kind of like the game was pushing you through the story. But I don't know. This game kind of reminds me of that. Where am I going here? I thought I was going. No, it's right here somewhere.
Nearby.
I went the wrong way. Shows it right. Let's go around this corner. Oops. It's in here. Son of a gun. Alright. I'm gonna go around here. Go further around the building. I'm in the zone. Not? I cannot. Why can't I fire a player here? Oh, now I can fire. Let's call for some backup.
Reinforcements incoming.
I'm coming for you!
It's as good as gone.
Alright guys, we can't focus here. Like not dying. Making this look horrible. 'Cause I'm a horrible player here.
Armor hostile detected.
That hurt. That jumpiness, man. Thing I don't like. All right.
I want your back.
How to defend.
Detecting additional hostile contacts.
They're going around us.
Run! Run!
Oops.
Wait up.
Does-
I've got your back.
Heavily armored hostile detected. Medical assistance needed.
Go.
That's it, right? Time to go home.
Anyways, guys, just wanted to
Supply room
kind of
access.
give a demonstration of this. I'll try to put a link up for you guys, see if you guys want to give this a go. This seems to work in pretty much most of the games that I play. That Borderlands, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, some of those games don't allow you to use a hybrid where you can use both mouse and X input. So this game fortunately does, but and you lose that aim assist. I mean, it can go either way. This game you really don't need it, I guess,
Supplies detected.
but it feels pretty good. All right, guys. Well, you have a good one. I'll talk to you later.